In laboratories around the world, one of the biggest bottlenecks is sample preparation. Digestion can take hours, involves hazardous acids, and often slows down critical testing, from mining assays to environmental checks. Well, Ontario-based ColdBlock Technologies says it has changed that. Its system uses focused infrared heat and a unique cooling zone to cut digestion times to as little as 10 minutes, while reducing costs and improving safety. Well, joining us now is Craig West, CEO of ColdBlock Technologies. Craig, thanks very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
I want to talk about what ColdBlock does, but before that, let's start with the problem. Why has sample digestion often been such a slow and costly process in the labs? What's the problem there?
Well, it's an area in the assaying process that's seen very little development or focus. There's not really been any major innovations in this step of the assaying process for decades. Partly because there's not a lot of companies that really focus on this step. They're all often focused on the overall process, and they don't focus on digestion. So it's just been a function of research and time spent.
Yeah. So where does ColdBlock step into the gap here?
Well, we come in with a revolutionary, brand new method of doing sample digestion. And again, we're taking the solid mining sample and we're digesting it into liquid form using acids and heat and time. And we're doing that really quickly. And when you do that step and you cause it to come into liquid form, then it's going to be ready for assaying. It's going to be ready for analysis in one of the mass spectrometer or one of the other analytical pieces of equipment that laboratories use in the mining sector.
Let's expand on that, because I'm interested in knowing, your system claims that it can reduce what normally takes hours to do in just a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But there's technology involved here, right?
Absolutely.
What's going on?
Yeah, so the current technologies that are being used are very often something as simple as a hot block. It's just a heating element, and it's delivering the energy in a certain way. It's heating up the vessel that things are in, and it's heating up the acid, and it's heating up the sample. It's a fairly long process. It's a process that takes 2.5, 3 hours or longer to get that sample into liquid form. So our technology is doing that differently. We're using infrared and a cooling zone, and that heating and that cooling working together and the power of infrared allows that same process to be completed in as little as 20 minutes. So we're dramatically shortening the time. We're not taking this longest step in the assaying process of multiple hours. We're not shrinking it a little bit. We're really cutting it down to a fraction of what it was before, greatly accelerating the assaying process.
You mentioned this a little earlier. Let's talk about, those mining companies, and in fact, all of them, pressured to deliver those assays quickly. And I'm particularly interested in what do you do to turn around that time with particular reference to the delivery of those assays?
Yeah, a lot of times in mining, from exploration stage all the way through into the mill, you're always waiting for those assay results. There's always your process and how fast you can make decisions is really governed by how fast those assay results are received. Early stages with exploration companies, they're drilling holes that are costing them hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars to drill. And they're having to wait, 6, 8, 10 weeks for those results to come back. And in the meantime, they've drilled another half a dozen holes. And so they're spending a lot of time and money waiting for those results. And they're not making very informed decisions about where the next drill hole should be because of that wait. And that's where ColdBlock can really be helpful. We can take that wait time that a lot of companies are experiencing of 8 or 10 weeks. And as laboratories convert to our technology and speed up that assaying process, that wait time is going to drop dramatically. And that's what we've already seen. The other end of the spectrum, like right up into the mining operations or in the mill, there's a lot of decisions that need to be made very quickly there about the process itself. How do we make little adjustments so that our recoveries in the mill are better? You're often waiting on assay results there as well. And again, if we can give those answers faster, then the mill could make more rapid decisions and have a better process, more efficient process.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because very often you'd get a company representative sitting exactly where you are sitting, and he wants to showcase he or she those results, right? Because it's a search for capital.
Absolutely.
and it's just a practical example as to how you can speed this up and why it's necessary, I would think.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. For any of these companies, again, we talk about having informed decisions sooner. That's really what we're providing here by allowing that assaying process and those results to come more quickly. You just think about how much more efficient all of these companies could be operating if they had assay results in a fraction of the time.
Presumably, we moved can move beyond mining here, right? Because this type of process can work if you extrapolate it into things like what? Evaluation, monitoring, food safety, I've read.
You would be absolutely surprised at how many things are digested or how many things are assayed. Outside of mining, we don't call it assaying, we call it elemental analysis. But absolutely, food testing, environmental testing. We're making a large announcement next month about a new soils method. Standard industry soils method is stipulated by the EPA is about a 4.5-hour method, and we're doing the same thing in 45 minutes. So across many sectors, from pharma to food to environmental testing, there's a lot of sectors where this technology is used.
You must have confronted this before. You have companies stick in a particular habit, right? Because it's difficult to shed away what you're used to, but yet that is necessary if you really want to change the way you do things.
Absolutely.
Have you been confronted with that?
Oh, absolutely. As our primary challenge as a company, assaying hasn't changed in decades. And so everyone, new lab analysts, old lab analysts, they've all been doing the same process for many, many years. And to convince them that there's a better way to do it is often a challenge. When they do see, though, how ColdBlock can work and they do have a chance to utilize the technology, give it a try, they're often blown away. And so that's what our model is now. We make it very easy for companies to take our technology, bring it into their labs, set it up, try it for a couple of months and see what it can do, and then make the decision over purchasing it. So that new sales model is actually working very well for us. We do not get units back. When you've taken it and you've tried it, lab managers refuse to let it go because they see how much more, not just faster, but how much simpler it is to use. And we haven't really talked yet about the safety benefits. It's a much safer way of assaying. It's a much safer way of preparing that sample for analysis.
Let's talk about that, because as I understand it, you're dealing with technicians that are not only facing pressure vessels, for example, but dangerous acids, right? Or acid or chemicals, what have you. How does this mitigate that?
Well, you're always going to be having heat. There's always temperature involved in sample digestion, and there's always acids are always going to be involved. So there's those safety protocols around those things are fairly well established. But where we make things safer is in the handling of the vessels. I mean, we talked about the heating and cooling. Our vessels are much cooler to touch, easier to use. We very often get away with slightly less acids in many applications. They don't need to use as much. And in mining sector, there's a fairly standard process called 4-acid digestion where they need to use perchloric acid, which is a very hazardous acid to use. And we've found that based on the way our technology works, you can get away without using perchloric acid. You don't need to use it. So within mining, it's nice to be able to say we've gotten rid of probably the worst acid of the 4 in a fairly standard process.
That's a significant game changer. So as we wrap up, what's next for ColdBlock here? I mean, is it all about sort of scaling adoption, I would think?
Yeah, the last couple of years, we've been focused on the global commercial labs. I mean, the industry leaders, the ones who kind of dictate, here's how we're doing things in this sector. And they've come a long way. They've really several of them have wrapped up, years of verification of our technology, confirming that you're getting the same results. You're getting equivalency. Your old method and the new method, you're getting the same exact data, the same exact results, but safer and faster. And now that these big commercial labs are finishing those processes, they've started advertising the use of ColdBlock to their customers. They're saying, we can now offer you faster data, faster turnaround times, safer results within your own laboratory. So that's what we've been working on. I think that's the way forward for us. We have been seeing some very big increases in adoption of our technology within mining. Some of the world's largest mining companies are now using ColdBlock Technologies, and we think that's only going to expand going forward, especially with the backstop and support and verification from the large industry leaders, the commercial labs.
Very interesting indeed. Well, Craig West, thanks very much indeed for coming in.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.